Welcome back to another episode of DEC Does What? I'm Sean Mahar along with
Erica Ringwald.
And it's summertime out here in New York State, and what better way to have some fun in the summer than going camping? And Erica, I was up in the Adirondacks this past weekend, heard a couple loons on the lake as I was camping out.
Did you see some wildfire smoke?
I did, Erica, and it was pretty hazy up there on the Saturday morning, and it smelled like campfire as well.
Yep.
And speaking of campfires and all things camping, we are talking about New York State campgrounds today, right, Erica?
Yes, we are.
Who do we have on?
We've got Jessica McBride, Campground Program Supervisor from DEC's Division of Operations in the Bureau of Recreation. That's quite a title.
It is. Rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And Andrea Dukett, Conservation Operations Supervisor, also in the Division of Operations up in DEC Region 5, Crown Point Working Circle. That is in the Adirondack Park, folks.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, you
Thanks
two.
for having us.
So something tells me, Erica, this conversation today is going to be intense, right?
Oh, started off with a bang.
Why are DEC campgrounds so awesome, and why should all New Yorkers get out and check them out?
Well, there's a lot of them. That's the first thing. So we have 51 campgrounds located in the Adirondack and Catskill Forest Preserves. We've got over 6,000 individual campsites. And our rates vary from $16 to $28 a night. So it's a really affordable way for people to take a vacation.
I also feel like each of the campgrounds have their own kind of personality and things that they bring. So depending on what you're looking for and what you want for your family, there's a spot for you.
So when did you two get into the campground program, and how long has DEC been having campgrounds across the state?
So we've had campgrounds since about 1920. That's when the first campgrounds were established. And our newest campgrounds came about in 2019. That's Frontier Town. I myself have been in the recreation program for 25 years. So obviously I started when I was around 10. So 25 years, started in a campground working as a seasonal, and then came to Albany Central Office, and I've been here ever since.
I started with the DC in 2016 after I left the military. When I moved back to Saranac Lake, I was just applying for basically any job that was available, and DEC called me first, and I was offered a position at a Sable Point campground. So I did a season there and then came down to Albany and, of course, back to the Adirondacks now for various positions.
So, Andrea, do you live in the campgrounds when you're a caretaker? Or
I did when I was at a Sable Point.
What's that like?
It's intense.
Really? We don't give you cabins or anything like that?
So yeah, there is a cabin. Honestly, Sable Point, I'm partial to Sable because it's beautiful. But you're there and you're always on call. So you're responding to stuff in the night if you need to, especially during busy weekends. So it's definitely a unique experience. I enjoyed myself when I was there. It was rewarding, but it's definitely like it's an adjustment being always on call and always there.
And we see the housing as a perk. Mm-hmm. We rely on 100% seasonal employees at our facilities. Mm-hmm. So being offered a cabin on a lake in the Adirondacks or the Catskills for the summer is kind of something cool that we're able to provide people.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah. My cabin at Sable Point was right on Lake Champlain, and the beach there is beautiful, and it's all sorts of wildlife and stuff that you can bird watching. It's really awesome.
Awesome.
So our campgrounds are only open during certain times of the year. What is the season?
Yep. So our facilities typically open in mid-May, and then all of our campgrounds remain open until between Labor Day and Columbus Day.
And then if you're a seasonal staff person, is that pretty much the same window that you would be, employed by DEC? Or how does that work if someone's interested in becoming a seasonal employee and working at our campgrounds?
Most of our seasonal staff are less than 6-month employees. So we start recruiting in January, February. Of course, we always try to bring back our previous year's employees since they're already trained and they know what they're doing for the most part. And then we hire them and start training them in April. So we have to be pretty flexible with our hire dates because we cater to a lot of college students. And they're getting out of school at different times. But also, the beginning of the season's a little slower. And as we ramp up to our core season, which is, July 4th through Labor Day, we need more people during that time. So we don't need to have all the seasonal staff come on at once at the end of April or beginning of May. So it's every week a lot of times, and training is sprinkled into there. And then, you stay on at least till the time that their campground closes, or if they need to leave earlier because they need to go back to college, we're accommodating to those dates. And then our caretakers, who tend to stay on the longest, they're usually within a couple weeks of the end of their season, or in some instances we are able to keep them on as a long-term employee through the whole year, and then they go back to their campground for the season, and then we have them do operations projects in their facilities over the winter.
We really encourage anybody interested in applying. We're really good about working around people's schedules. We don't have just a 9 to 5 operating schedule. So we have a lot of positions that are evenings and into the night. So that often works well for people who have other jobs during the day. Again, college kids, it's a perfect situation because they're off or home for the summers. Teachers, people who are retired. So yeah.
Yeah, retirees are another big one for us. They just want to, do something for the summertime and be outside and mowing grass and, interacting with people, and it's a nice thing for them to do. And of course, they have years of experience in the workforce, which is really nice for us because they can help us with our younger staff.
I don't know about you, Erica, but I think I've got my next retirement gift.
I know.
lined up.
I'm thinking about it.
We can send you the application right now. Yeah.
What are some of the basic requirements in order to be hired as a seasonal?
So it depends on the position. Our park and recreation 1 to 6, the minimum requirement is 16 years of age. Preference is given to people 18 years of age or older with a driver's license. You do need to be 18 to operate our equipment and vehicles. So the preference is given to that. If you'd like to be a caretaker with us, there is some supervisory experience that is required for those positions, either with landscaping or customer service or in construction background. So
That makes sense.
yeah, so that's what they're dealing with in the facilities is managing people, but also general upkeep of the facility, of the buildings and grounds.
All right, so we've got 51 campgrounds, all of which I'm sure are incredibly popular, and I'm sure there's some that are sort of busier than others. Are there any hidden gems?
If you had asked me that question probably 5 years ago, I could have come up with a pretty decent list. But I feel like after the pandemic, all of our facilities are pretty busy.
Yep.
There are facilities that are more popular because of the location or the sites that we have to offer. So we always encourage people to head to our DEC site, which is dec.ny.gov. You can search for camping, and we list all of the amenities and the features that campgrounds have, because what we didn't mention is just how unique all the campgrounds are. So you can go from a campsite where you can have a group of 20 people camping on your site to a site where you need to have a boat to get out and you camp on an island. So we have a really wide array of different camping experiences. We encourage people to kind of try something new if they can't find their campground. So not quite a hidden gem, but.
You're learning about DEC campgrounds on DEC Does What. We'll be right back with more about some of the special programs that we offer at DEC campgrounds.
Get your hunting license today. Hunting and trapping licenses, as well as deer management permits for the 2025-26 season, are now on sale. Buy your license online by visiting dec.ny.gov or by calling us at 1-866-933-2257. You may also get licenses in person at a license issuing agent near you. Happy hunting!
So, Jessica and Andrea, talk about some of the programs that we offer to really inspire and incentivize folks to want to experience camping in New York State.
Yeah, we've got a couple of really great programs. The first of which is our First Time Camper program, and that's a free program that New York families can register for, an open lottery. And it really introduces people to the outdoors. We randomly select the participants that enter our lottery, and they're provided with all of the equipment that they need to camp. So tents and sleeping bags and sleeping pads, all the stuff that they'll need, even firewood. And to make their stay a little more comfortable, we also have a DEC camping ambassador who helps them throughout the duration of their stay. So they're there to help them set up the tents. They're there to show them how to fish and how to hike and how to bird watch and all of the other activities associated with camping. It's a really popular program. We do it every weekend from mid-July until the end of August. We select 5 participants per weekend, and it's a really great program to get people accustomed to going to the Adirondacks and Catskills.
Do first-time campers become second-time campers?
They often do. We have a really great return rate, and when we do kind of an exit poll with those people, they're typically really excited about the experiences that they had. Even when it comes to bad weather. I mean, that's a part of camping.
Yeah.
So oftentimes, it's raining when they're setting up their equipment, or they're seeing wildlife like raccoons and bears and things like that. But having that campground ambassador there really helps them to feel more secure in learning all the things about camping.
What I love about this program is I think there are probably more people who haven't camped and didn't grow up in a camping family than there are with families who did that pretty regularly. It's a great way to help introduce New Yorkers to camping. And I love the campground ambassador who helps you light your fire and tell you how to put it out, and all that sort of stuff that can be daunting when you've never done it before.
Yeah, daunting and expensive.
Yes.
Getting into camping isn't necessarily something people want to put that money out for because they're not sure if it's something they're going to like.
Yep.
So it's a really great way for them to kind of see if it's something that they're into. And that camping ambassador actually camps alongside them, which is a really cool thing. So it's not that they're just there until 9 o'clock, help them set up the tents, and then they leave. They're there for the whole weekend with them. So it's a really great program. We're really proud of it. We've had really good success with it.
I guess I have my second retirement job to potentially undertake with these.
You would be chef's kiss, the best camping ambassador.
I mean, I got to
ever.
say, I got some experience and it's fun. But, you mentioned, Jessica, tents. Now, are campgrounds just for tent camping, or can you bring RVs and campers? What is the type of experience that we offer?
Sure. We have a really wide variety of sites. So, all of our campsites will accommodate tents. And then we have other sites that will accommodate RVs and trailers, usually 20, 30, or 40-foot trailers or equipment. We also have family sites, which are something pretty new for us, and that accommodates larger groups and larger equipment. So those have been really popular for us since the popularity of camping has been growing. Oftentimes it's difficult for people to get more than one campsite together. So those family sites are really a great way to get a larger group of people together in our facilities.
How many? I know we have at least a couple of sites that accommodate horses too. How many do we have of those?
We do. We have 3 different campgrounds, Bear Spring Mountain in the Catskills, and then Luzerne and Frontier Town in the Adirondacks. Those are really interesting because you camp with your horse, so it's equestrian camping. So that's a really unique thing also.
So cool.
So I know we're talking pretty much Adirondacks and Catskills, and that's where our DEC campgrounds are. What is the difference between state park campgrounds and DEC campgrounds? Are they the same experience, or are there different experiences that we offer?
Yeah, it's a really different experience for the most part. Being in the forest preserve, as our facilities are, we're beholden to different rules. So where you may see hookups, water hookups, electric hookups at a parks and rec facility, or even cabins and yurts and cottages, we predominantly have primitive campsites that can accommodate RVs and trailers, as we mentioned, and tents. So it's a very different experience. I'd say our facilities are definitely more rustic than a parks and rec facility.
All right. I want to hear your craziest experience at a DEC campground.
Well,
Go.
I'll say,
and keep it clean.
Well, and we'll lead in. We did, because you can't repeat stories that we've heard on the show. So during our Ranger episode, we did hear about an individual
that was a good one.
who dressed up as a bear
and stole other people's food.
Yes. So you can't repeat that story because that's pretty outrageous. But I'm assuming you two have some stories.
That's a pretty high bar, actually.
Right?
Yeah.
Indeed.
I actually have one from when I worked at the campground. So when I started, I worked at North South Lake, which is in the Catskills. And it's just up the mountain from the old Catskill game farm. And there used to be all sorts of animals and stuff there. And sometimes the animals would get loose. So this elderly couple came up and they were driving their camper and they said, "You're going to think we're crazy, but we saw a kangaroo." So I instantly thought, well, it was probably a fawn, not a kangaroo, but I'm giving them benefit of the doubt, customer
Sure.
service and everything. I said, well, the game farm is, a mile down the mountain from us. I'll call and see if there's any kangaroos that escaped. So I call the game farm and I said, hey, are you missing any of your kangaroos? I promptly got hung up on 3 times. The 4th time I said, I'm not kidding. I'm from the campground. Someone thinks they saw a kangaroo. They said, well, we don't have any kangaroos, so it's not one of ours. So then I had to go down to the site and tell the people that it was probably just a fawn that they saw and not an escaped kangaroo. But I did my due diligence and called the game farm just to double check. So,
Appreciate
yes,
you.
Yeah.
I have a good one. So when I was working at Sable Point as a caretaker, it was very early in the season. I was brand new. It was midweek, and this very large group came in and had booked almost the entire loop in the campground, one of the loops. And I go out for my evening patrol to make sure that the campground is quiet. And I turn onto this loop, and it's a dance party in the street of every single camper was dancing to music, and I'm like, I don't know what I do with this. Like it's not quiet hours yet, technically, but there's other people in the campground. It was mostly them, to be honest. And I'm like, so I ended up, going through, and I found who seemed to be like the leader, and I was like, hey, just so you know, it's coming up on quiet hours, and they're like, oh, we have a few more minutes, come dance with us. And I'm like,
Were they the DJ?
they were the DJ.
Oh, wow.
Did you dance with him?
I did not.
Oh, no.
It's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, it was a
right
missed
there.
opportunity. So, I left them to their kind of whole big party. And I came back like 5 minutes later, and it was just crickets. Everyone had gone to bed. I was like, what do I do here, though?
Record scratch.
Yeah.
There you go. So, Andrea, you bring up quiet hours. What are some of the rules of our campgrounds that people should be aware of, and what are some of the things that they should pack with them that are sort of essentials for camping?
Sure. So quiet hours is a big one. So we are family facilities. So we do ask that people quiet down at 10 o'clock. You don't have to be in your tents or in your campers, but you need to be respectful of the people around you and turn your music down and be quiet. Another big one is generator hours. So we talked about how there are no hookups in the majority of DEC facilities for electricity. So people are allowed to bring generators. Generator hours are between 9 and 11 a.m. and 4 and 7 p.m. So we do ask people respect those hours because outside of that, we do want it to be quieter. We want to be able to hear the nature. And of course, the people who don't have generators don't want to listen to your generator all day long. We actually are seeing an uptick in solar panels, so people can set them out on their campsites and they'll charge their batteries all day long, and that is definitely recommended because then you don't need to use a generator, and of course that is a greener solution. Another big one that we always tell people at check-in is if they have pets, they need to have their pet on a leash at all times. So if they're out walking, it needs to be on a 6-foot leash. Even if they're on their campsite, it does need to be in an enclosure or on some sort of leash. And they can't leave their pets unattended at the campground. So they can't put them in their camper or tent while they're out. And those are the biggest ones.
We also require that they provide proof of rabies inoculation so that we know it's safe for them and for the other visitors in the campgrounds. And I'd say the one other rule, in advance of getting to the campground is that you have to arrive and check in before 9 p.m. And that's really because the quiet hours start at 10. It's really hard to set up a tent and get all your equipment and stuff set up in it less than an hour. So 9 p.m. is when we ask people to arrive by. Otherwise, they can come the next morning and set up first thing the next morning.
One of the other things that is important is that they actually bring equipment to camp with. So we want people to be in tents. We want them to be in campers. There are vehicles that can be converted into places to sleep while you're camping, but it does need to be the intended purpose.
What are your camping must-haves?
I grew up camping with what we called whoopie pie makers, which is a cast iron like sandwich maker that we used to make mini pizzas with. So that is a go-to for me personally. I always need to bring a whoopie pie maker to make my personal pizzas when I'm camping.
Very nice.
That's a good one.
We always, before we go camping, we always make sure that either the campground sells kiln-treated firewood that we can purchase there, or if they can suggest areas that we can buy it from locally, just because we're cognizant of the rules about moving firewood too far from our home. So we always make sure before we go that we're going to be able to get it near there.
Yep.
Because everyone wants a campfire.
Yep. Very important. How about you, Sean?
Well, Eric, actually, outside of a compass, because, be prepared, obviously, you need to. I like to bring a Frisbee because it can obviously double as fun. It floats on water. Frisbee golf in nature can be fun. You set up your own course and just go and play. It doubles as a plate if you need it to. It's a very versatile tool, and that's one of my key camping things that I always bring with me.
We'll have to add that to our suggested packing list that we have on our DEC website.
There you go.
I like to bring a couple of decks of cards in case it rains.
Yeah. All right, well, we're talking campgrounds and all things camping here on DEC Does What. When we come back from the break, we'll try and tease some additional campfire stories out of these two.
Heading out on the water this summer? Remember to clean, drain, and dry your watercraft, trailers, fishing gear, and other equipment to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species. Invasive species are non-native species that cause harm to the environment, the economy, or human health. To learn how you can help stop the spread, visit dec.ny.gov and search clean, drain, dry.
Obviously, outside of my mom, my daughter is one of the biggest fans of this show and will always sometimes give me questions. So her question today is, what is your best campfire story to tell? Or do you have any good ghost stories of our DEC campgrounds?
Yeah,
that you've heard?
does DEC have a haunted campground?
Weird.
We have a lot of
haunting
campgrounds
story.
with interesting histories or interesting
Oh, yeah?
names.
Yeah.
What do you got?
We have Frontier Town.
Yes.
So that was obviously, a pretty cool amusement park back in the day. So that one's got a pretty cool history. We have Devil's Tombstone. So although it
I've
might
actually
not be
wondered
haunted,
about that name. Where does that come from? Do you know?
the big rock there. Yeah, I know nothing else about it.
Someday, sometime in the past, some guy just named it. that?
Evidently, yeah.
I would say if any of them were haunted, it may be the ones that were built on battlefields from
Yep.
the
Yeah.
wars. Yeah. Either Crown Point or Battleground in Lake George.
Yeah, because we don't just have campgrounds either. We also have day use areas. So we've got a couple in the Lake George area and then others in other areas of the state. So in Lake George, we have Lake George $1 Million Beach, and right alongside it, we have Lake George Battlefield. So those are pretty interesting also.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous part of the state.
Yep.
So what are the differences between DEC campgrounds and like our backcountry camping experiences? And do you need a reservation to camp in the backcountry, or how does that work?
Sure. So, we consider our campgrounds developed campgrounds, and that's the word that we really use when kind of teasing out if we get a call from someone and they're not sure where they want to camp or what they want to do. We use the term developed because in our facilities, you're typically going to see bathrooms, sometimes showers, sometimes it's, a portalette or a porta-john kind of situation. But for the most part, it's a specific campsite that you reserve in advance and that entitles you to use of that site when you're there. In the backcountry, most of those sites are first come, first serve. Depending on the size of the group and how long you're going to be there, you do have to register with the ranger in the area. So it's a little bit different.
So, Jessica and Andrea, I know both of you have talked a little bit about wildlife, obviously outside of kangaroos and the non-native species that may frequent our campgrounds. Our campgrounds are in some of the most beautiful places in the state, in the Adirondacks and Catskills. There's a lot of wildlife that obviously you are helping to steward in the way that you maintain and manage these areas, just in general. But I know we have this thing called the Junior Naturalist Program. What is that all about, and how do our campsites and campgrounds provide those opportunities to experience that?
Yeah, that's another great program that we do. We started that program back in 1997, and the program gives children and their families the opportunity to kind of test their environmental knowledge, to learn more about New York State's environment, and to earn a really cool embroidered badge too. So when families with children arrive at our facilities, they can request one of the Junior Naturalist journals, and they can complete that journal over the duration of their stay. And when they're done, they give that back to one of our staff members, and we present them with the patch. It's a different theme every year, so we get a lot of people who've been collecting them since 1997. So it's a really great program.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
This year's theme is the wild turkey.
Oh, talking turkey, Erica.
Yeah,
Look at that.
yeah.
Check out that episode for more information on turkeys in general, listeners, as you probably already have checked it out. But check out the Junior Naturalist program as well at dec.ny.gov. Before we let you two go today, obviously you're great ambassadors for our campgrounds and what all DEC has to offer the public for outdoor recreation. But really, what got you interested in these positions, and why did you want to come to Team DEC?
I grew up just up the road from Fish Creek and Rollins Pond campgrounds in the Adirondacks. And I camped there regularly throughout my childhood. And when I moved back to Saranac Lake and a position at DEC opened up, I was just really excited to kind of make that part of my life again, and be part of the DEC and be a steward for the environment, and as well as help people enjoy camping as much as I do.
And Andrea, what branch of the military did you serve in?
I was in the Air Force.
That's awesome. And how did you find DEC very welcoming to veterans in general?
Yeah, I would say definitely yes. So, coming into operations, I actually was probably one of the only veterans within Region 5 Raybrook office at that time. But we do hire a lot of veterans, especially the retirees that work seasonally in our campground, and they definitely are very welcoming and provided veterans provide a different skill set and a different perspective sometimes, which is nice.
So, Jess, what about you?
Much like Andrea, I grew up down the road from one of our campgrounds in the Catskills. I was home from college and needed a summer job, and the timing and everything worked. So I did that for 3 different seasons while I was home from college. And then I was told about a position that opened up here in Albany. I said, I'll just go and interview for it and see what happens. And the rest is history. So now I've been here in Albany for 22 years.
Fantastic.
Well, Andrea and Jessica, thank you, too, for both being on the show and for all the great work you do at DEC's campgrounds in the Adirondacks and Catskills. Definitely check out dec.ny.gov for more information on our campgrounds and the programs we offer, how to register to have a campsite, and really just more information on all the great outdoor recreation opportunities New York has to offer. So thanks, you two, for all the great work you do.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Well, Erica, that was fun. Can't wait to play some rummy with you in a campground someday.
Yeah.
It should be fun.
Let's do it.
Let's definitely do it. But in the meantime, please keep emailing us at contact@dec.ny.gov. Let us know more of what you want to hear on this show. But more importantly, Erica, what should every New Yorker do?
Go outside and go camping.
DEC Does What is a production of DEC's Division of Communication, Education, and Engagement. Our theme music is an original composition by Mike Menza, Environmental Program Specialist with DEC's Division of Fish and Wildlife. Like what you heard on this episode? Please leave a review and share this episode with others. Want to learn more about DEC's wide-ranging efforts to protect New Yorkers and the environment? Visit dec.ny.gov or connect with us on social media. You can find us using @NYSDEC. For more information on DEC Does What, visit dec.ny.gov/podcast.